Hello and welcome back everybody to the channel. I'm sorry it's not Star Wars. My reading has become a bit slow. But I mean, there should be something up tomorrow, if not by the end of the week. Um, but yeah, I wanted to talk to you about something that is kind of been passionate of mine lately, which is going through the Dragon Age franchise. Now there's still a novel that takes place before this game that I've yet to talk about, but I'll get to it at some point. Today we have Dragon Age 2. Now, Dragon Age 2, I just want to quickly go over some of my thoughts. I'm not going to go too in depth. But Dragon Age 2 was another thing for us Star Wars fans out there, was like KOTOR 2, which had a rushed development cycle of about 18 months. So Obsidian got the short end of the stick instead of BioWare. They originally wanted to make this game as a spin off game, not as an official sequel to the game, but a spin off game called Dragon Age Exodus, which would follow a character with, a pre established backstory, and already has a name and everything. And you would follow him or her along a story, and that would be that. Before Dragon Age 2, which would have been um, probably most of the ending of this game and then all of Dragon Age Inquisition, but it ended up being split up. But that is, what did not happen because the studio was like, hey, we love that Dragon Age Origins game. And a lot of people, a lot of fans really digged it. So you're going to make Dragon Age 2. Like, well, we're not ready to make Dragon Age 2. We have a spin off game, but like what we have is not something a sequel should probably be. And the studio was like, well, you're going to make this Dragon Age 2 because Dragon Age 2 is going to get more people to buy it than saying Dragon Age Exodus or something. Dragon Age 2 shows a direct sequel to the first game and was going to make people buy it even more. So they were forced to make it within 18 months. I'm not really a video game reviewer, so I'm not going to talk about the gameplay that much. As a game, the game is very repetitive. There's a lot. The combat is fun until you get to like the 10th hour, and then you're kind of sick of it, and then you got to do it for another like 90 hours. So, but this game still shines, I think. The first act is probably the weakest. There's 3 acts. The first act takes place around the same time as Dragon Age Origins, except that you are a refugee, Hawke from Lothering, male or female, doesn't matter. You can customize how you look, but Hawke is still a predetermined character with like a family and a backstory. You can just kind of change how Hawke acts. But you escape Lothering, which was a town from the first game, because it's overrun with Darkspawn, which, again, context in the first game. But you escape all that. You make it to this city called Kirkwall, which is free from the Blight at this moment. Of course, during the course of that first act of the game, the Grey Warden, who you played as in the first game, is taking care of that. So it's not really your problem. In fact, the Darkspawn aren't even really a factor in this game, except for in small areas of the game. So you are very low and poor though, so you have to kind of build yourself up. So for a year's time, you build up money and stuff. You meet this fantastic dwarf named Varric to kind of get money for this Deep Roads expedition. And that's kind of what the first act is, which is very boring. The way they kind of set up the story, though, of this game is that the dwarf, Varric, is being interrogated by this lady named Cassandra. And she's asking him the tale of, the hero of Kirkwall. And so with that, you get some fun sequences every now and then. Because you're having an unreliable narrator from the perspective of Varric, sometimes he'll exaggerate, and you can clearly tell when that's happening. But it's a lot of fun when those sequences happen. But that's how you kind of know you're making progress through the game. Every time you get through, a big section of the game, there'll be another interrogation scene between Varric and Cassandra, both of which will appear in Inquisition. But yeah, so the first act of the game is pretty boring. A lot of a lot of fetch quests and everything, and side quests just leading you up to doing that. Though you do get a lot of interesting things started here, which will be built up in the second and third act. You learn that the Qunari are in Kirkwall, that their ship is crashed. They're also missing something, and they refuse to leave Kirkwall without that thing. Now, the great thing about this is that the Qunari, we didn't get a lot of in Dragon Age Origins. We had one companion named Sten who gave us a general outline of what they were like, but here we get more of their society, more of their people, and they had a redesign change where they kind of look more like bulls, they got horns. It's really interesting. At the same time, we see what this game is mainly going to focus on, though it's not the center focus of this first act. Because we get introduced to the Templar and Mages conflict. Now, this isn't the first time we're hearing about this. If you play Dragon Age Origins, this has always been a thing, kind of in the background, but it's kind of coming to a head in this game. Where, mages feel oppressed by the Templars, and Templars fear the mages' power. Now, one of the characters you met in Dragon Age Expansion's Awakening, one of the companions you got, was Anders, who was a mage who was tired of the Templars. He became a Grey Warden for a time, with the help of the hero Ferelden. Along with that, you also met a new companion named Justice, who was a spirit of justice, who really believed in justice, who inhabited the body of a dead Grey Warden named Kristoff. Now, at some point in between games, Kristoff was left to rot, and Anders and Justice made a deal to coexist in one body. That's where we lead into Dragon Age 2 with Anders, who does make a return, and he is a main character in this game, which is fantastic, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Then Act 2, we mostly focus, after we meet all of our companions. Varric is I don't know if you guys have ever played Mass Effect, but that's the best way to describe him. Like, Varric is just a bro. Like, I find it hard to believe that anybody could dislike Varric if they were to play the game. Then, of course, we have Isabella, who's a really fun, roguish character. We have Anders, who I mentioned, who I'll get more into as we get into it. Marielle, who's a elf. Fenris, who's an elf who was abused by mages, so hates mages. A DLC companion. And what's the other one's name? I'm biffing on it, but they're all really fun companions, though. The only issue is that you don't get to talk to them as much as you did in Dragon Age Origins. But so we ramp up at the end of the first arc. We have Varric's brother betray us with this red lyrium, which is not really addressed in this game, but it will be brought up down the line in Dragon Age Inquisition. The second act really focuses on the Qunari and the struggles that they're having with the city, and the culmination where you, as Hawke from Kirkwall, ends up, becoming the hero of Kirkwall by defeating the Qunari leader, which leads into the final act, where the Mages versus Templars conflict, which has been building up throughout the game, coincides. There's also some DLCs to talk about, but that might warrant its own video. I don't know. But Anders is probably one of the greatest characters I think I've seen. And now, a lot of people might have a lot of issues with it in the same way that people have an issue with the Star Wars Expanded Universe with Jacen Solo post New Jedi Order, because a lot of his development appears off screen. Now, what we know about Anders from Awakening is that he's a funny guy. He's a guy that is witty and quick, and is caring, but has a disdain for the order of the Templars that try to control mages. Is he going to actually do anything about it in Awakening? No, he doesn't really seem to want to do that. He doesn't feel like that's really his responsibility. But you can see in Awakening that he has issues with it. Now, off screen, he made a deal with Justice and became one being merged. And throughout this game, it's hard to tell how much of the decisions that Anders makes throughout the game is his own and how much is influenced by Justice. Because by the end of the game, they're so interconnected that it can be hard to tell what's doing what. I don't know if Anders would have completely gone through everything he goes through in the game if Justice wasn't there. It's a really interesting and fascinating question, but I still see the Anders that I remember in there. It's just there's so much conflict and stuff. Not only with Justice itself being inside him, but the struggles of the mages and just building up throughout the city. leading to this crescendo. I won't get into the ending of this game, but what I love about this game is how small scale it is. In Dragon Age Origins, you were the hero Ferelden. You were meant to save the world from darkness. In Dragon Age 2, you're a hero of a city. That's all you need to be. You are a small cog in a much bigger issue. Because by the end of the game, no matter what you do, conflicts still rise because you are just one person and you aren't the main hero. You are just someone there who tried to help. And at the end of the day, the Mages vs. Templar conflict, no matter what you do, goes insane. I absolutely love the main story of Dragon Age 2. I think it's utterly fantastic. I love the companions. I love the stuff with the Qunari, and I love the stuff with the Mages versus Templars. I think that's some of the best storytelling that BioWare's ever done, and I'll stand by that. I think it's really, really good and really, really worth your time. Now, I know most people won't be watching this because they came here for Star Wars and not for Dragon Age, but there you go. There's a lot more that could be said, and I might discuss the DLC in another video, I don't know. But that's going to be it for now. It'll be a while before we get to Dragon Age Inquisition, because there's a bunch of books and comics that chronologically take place before Inquisition, so I'll be reading those first. But ultimately, I think it's a fantastic game, and I do think it's a worthy sequel. Is it perfect? No, and it is definitely not what I would have personally wanted gameplay-wise for a sequel. But as the story goes, I think it's very good. And I do think you should give it a shot if you're ever interested. And if you haven't played Dragon Age at all, first off, why are you watching this? Secondly, go play Dragon Age Origins and go play Dragon Age 2. On sales, you can get them for like $5 on Steam. Go play it. It's worth your time. And next time, guys, I'll be uploading my new Rebellion review. So until then, may the Maker watch over you.